Hi, I'm Gina, creator and host of Feminine Roadmap Podcast, the podcast that is designed to have real talk around all things midlife and strategies to help us live a more vibrant second half. It is my deepest desire to help other people shift the conversation toward empowerment, toward vibrancy, toward excitement about what life has for us and what we can bring to the world, how we can each individually shine our light. So I invite you to grab a cup of something wonderful, to join me each week or when you can, and join me in my living room to have these conversations. And if you are enjoying this, please take the time to subscribe wherever you listen, rate my podcast, and share the episodes that help you, the episodes that encourage you. Let's build this community together. Welcome to my tribe. I'm so grateful you're here. Hello, Feminine Roadmappers. It is Gina here with Feminine Roadmap Podcast, the podcast that helps you navigate the challenges and the changes of midlife and how to live a more vibrant second half. This week, I'm coming to you a little tardy, and I'm coming to you with a solo check-in podcast. I don't have a specific topic today. I just had you on my mind and wanted to have a tete-a-tete, a little cup of something wonderful with you and just touch base to see how everyone is doing, to kind of check in with you, what's going on in my life. And, you know, every once in a while, it's kind of nice to have this kind of connection because as I do the podcast and speak to the amazing people that I speak to, and as you listen to the podcast and you get to benefit from these amazing people that I get to speak to, somewhere along the way, I don't have the opportunity to connect with you myself. I'm connecting with my guest and sharing them with you. So every once in a while, I like to drop in and do a solo podcast. Whenever I do a solo podcast, I always wrestle with what in the world to talk about. So the way that I'm treating this podcast today is kind of like a live. I'm going to go right off the top of my head, just like we were sitting down in a coffee shop, having a cup of something wonderful and spending time together as friends. Because this podcasting journey really is a journey of friendship, kinship. You know, we may not see each other face to face. We may not even know each other. You probably know me better because you hear my voice when you listen, hopefully every week. You know, this is one of those things where we feel like we know people, but we just are familiar with them because we've listened to their podcast or looked at their Instagram posts or read their books and that sort of a thing. So I think in the spirit of the way things used to be when we used to sit on the porch and chat with our neighbors, and there was the corner cafe that people hung out in. You know, I remember my uncle used to hang out at this one place and talk to his buddies, and it's just one of those things that's gotten lost in our culture. We're so busy. And people talk about how we just kind of pull into our garages and nobody sees their neighbors. And even though my neighbors don't pull into their garages, it is difficult to connect with the people that I have been connected to in the past. I find myself being caught up in all the things that I need to do and not making that same kind of time that maybe I used to make. It was a little different when my kids were younger because we were outside more, doing more things outside. I think as we mature, we spend a lot more time indoors, whether it's at work or at home, doing tasks. So I thought, you know what, I'm just going to check in with you and kind of let you know what I've been thinking and doing. And hopefully you will take the time to connect with someone else. And if you want to connect with me, as always, you can email me at ourtribe@feminineroadmap.com, and it comes to me and I will answer it. So I would love to connect with you if that's something that suits you. So I have a couple of things that I'm revisiting that I absolutely love. One of them is a book called Switch on Your Brain by Dr. Carolyn Leaf. The subtitle is The Key to Peak Happiness, Thinking, and Health. And this book is something I'm going through with one of my coaching clients. She was talking about really wanting to make effectual change in her life. We've worked together on many things, and she's ready to take it to that next level. And I thought that this book was a fantastic tool. Even though we've used many tools, I thought, if we read this book, it talks about neuroplasticity, it talks about the brain, which I have a side geek gig. I love to read about the brain. Dr. Amen, his books, Change Your Brain, Change Your Life, was a book that I was sad to get through. It was a big book, but it was such a good book. And so between Dr. Amen and Dr. Carolyn Leaf, I've learned quite a bit about how the brain works. And I was just thinking about, we have by this point in our life really accumulated a lot of beliefs, and I have air quotes for you, beliefs about ourselves, about the people around us, about the world around us. Sometimes those beliefs are not supportive. They have served us in some way, shape, or form, either as a protection, a shield, a way of coping. But one of the things that has come to the forefront of my mind recently is, just because the beliefs that we hold, and I'm not talking about faith beliefs, I'm talking about ideas about ourselves, ideas about other people in our lives, typically long-term relationships, really thinking about looking at those and seeing if they're actually accurate, seeing if they actually serve us, and really beginning to challenge the fact that, once we hit a certain age, there's a belief system out there that, well, you can't teach an old dog new tricks, or this is just the way I am. And I would like to encourage all of us to challenge that quote belief and recognize that we were designed with an ability to grow, mature, progress is built into us. Change, flexibility, it's actually built into us. It's just that we get used to things and we don't want to make those changes because it takes work. And this book, Switch on Your Brain by Dr. Carolyn Leaf, has a 21-day brain detox plan in it. It's a very simple daily process that takes anywhere from 7 to 10 minutes. And it's a way to actually use neuroplasticity to your benefit so that you can begin to unlock, unwind, untwist, if you will, find the word that makes sense to you, those belief systems and those habits that have become less than supportive, less than healthy even. Maybe they were never healthy, but they served a purpose. So this book is currently on my table as something that I'm going through myself again, which I have read it. I'm reading it through again with a client. And we are taking her challenges, the places that she's stuck, and we're taking a system and learning about how the brain works, why it works the way it does, and how we can partner with it to get the results that we want to get out of our lives. So that is currently on my mind, neuroplasticity, and the way that our habits and our belief systems are like grooves in our brain. They're physical things. Our thoughts are physical things. And so when we are hard on ourselves, when we criticize ourselves, and I say this because I struggle with self-acceptance in this season of change in my body. It's just like I don't know myself anymore because between hormonal changes with perimenopause, the effects of the stress of the last few years, everything is just a little different, and my body doesn't behave the way it used to behave. My abilities are the same, but like I haven't changed the way I eat. I haven't really changed anything, but my body is changing no matter what I do. And I find that difficult. And so I realized that some of these beliefs maybe that I've had for a long time about what is acceptable, what quote looks good, what I need to feel happy, whatever it is, it's time to look and question these things and really think about, hey, why do I believe this thing, whatever it is? Well, we have these grooves, these dendrites in our brain as well. As we think, they grow like a vine. And when you and I spend time being negative about ourselves, our marriage, our children, our jobs, our lives, when we focus on the negative, when we sit in the negative, we are causing effectual brain damage. We are hurting ourselves. That doesn't mean we don't face the negative. It's how we handle it. Do we sit in it, muck around a bit, be unhappy, beat ourselves up, beat other people up emotionally, or do we work too quickly or as quickly as we can? Let's be honest. Habits are something we have to work on. But this is where, when I talk about having a positive mindset, I don't mean toxic positivity. I mean trying to find the things that we can focus on that give us the more supportive and healthy perspective, the possibility thinking, so that our brains are healthier. And when our brains are healthier, when we're feeding it the right foods, we're getting enough healthy fats, we're not eating the processed foods, we're feeding our mind on good books, good podcasts, good music. When we're nurturing our brains, then we have the ability to grow in a positive direction, right? Difficult things still happen. Difficult people still exist. But this idea that we have a choice in how we choose to think and how we choose to manage our emotions is powerful. This whole idea about living a vibrant second half and thinking differently about midlife than maybe historically people looked at midlife or retirement and what you're supposed to do after a quote certain age. You know, we are living, breathing, vibrant, dynamic human beings, and our life continues to be worth living until we aren't here anymore. And so that's why I'm so passionate about that vibrant living piece. And I think a book like Switch on Your Brain is key to vibrant living, because we need to mind our mind. We need to manage our feelings. Just yesterday, I was feeling just off a little bit, and I was kind of observing it as best I could, as like step away from myself and observe. Is there really anything going wrong? Is there really anything, what's happening? Is anything even happening at all? Because our feelings can be so destructive. They can lead us into disagreements with people that we love. And so if we can be mindful of the emotion, it's a state of being. It's not always a reality. It becomes the reality when we accept it and we don't question it. So I think sometimes we need to talk to ourselves and, switch on your brain. You need to focus on what you think and why you're thinking it, and really capture those emotions so that they don't carry us away down a path that we're going to regret, because our emotions are really not reliable. They can be very, very deceptive, especially those of us who are here, maybe going through perimenopause. Our bodies and our minds and our emotions, our hormones, it's all in flux. And because all of those things are in flux, nothing is as it seems, you know? And so being aware of these emotions and their ability to damage, questioning our thoughts, questioning our emotions, and recognizing that those things are causing behaviors. So if my behavior is off, if I'm behaving in ways and speaking in ways that are not helpful, they're causing trouble, then instead of being like, oh, somebody did this to me, I need to stop and look at myself and be like, okay, what's happening here? If I'm the common denominator, how can I evaluate, not beat myself up, but evaluate, okay, what happened in that situation? How did I handle that situation? Could I have done it differently? Is there something I need to do to correct that situation? Or is this a take note of, something I need to work on in myself? One of the things that, if you've listened to me for any time, is I really have a strong belief in personal development and growth, not for the sake of me being better, but the more self-aware I am and the more able I am to face things and deal with them, the better wife, mother, and friend I am, the better able I am to serve the people in my life that I love and care for. And honestly, the benefit to us when we choose to live a life of self-awareness and change the things that we can, work on the things that we can, like this neuroplasticity, using something like the 21-day brain detox plan. It gives us a tool and it gives us the hope of knowing that we can live in a way that's in alignment with the person that we want to be. If we have a habit or an attitude that we really don't like about ourselves, even if it's been there our whole life, there are tools out there that we can work with that can help us shift these habits. So that is something that's actually always on my mind, to be completely honest. I could probably talk about that every single day, but that's that thought. The next thought is there's an artist in England. His name is Charlie Mackesy. He has a book called The Boy, the Mole, the Fox, and the Horse. And this is a sweet book. He's an illustrator, and I wish you could see it. In this book, he's a very tender-hearted man, and he will do illustrations and leave them around in different places in London, England. If he takes the tube, he will sometimes leave a book on the subway, or he will draw something and leave it in different bus stops. He does really great things, and they're all very encouraging. I wish you could see his illustrations. And he says, "There's something I haven't told you," said the horse. "What's that?" said the boy. "I can fly, but I stopped because it made the other horses jealous." And the little boy says, "Well, we love you, whether you can fly or not." And I love his sweet spirit and the message that he brings, the love that we have for each other and the acceptance that we can have and the support that we can give each other as human beings. And I do hope that this podcast gives you that kind of love and support, that you feel you're seen and heard, that you can see yourself in some of the conversations that I have, that you can relate to these things, that you're not alone in the journey that you're on, because the reality is everyone's been through something that someone else has been through. None of us is the only one going through whatever it is we're going through. There is a universality to all of our experiences, but we tend to forget that there's a universality to our experiences because we're alone in it and we don't reach out for that support. So often when we're going through some kind of a struggle, we do feel alone. And back to what I was talking about with the brain and our feelings often lie to us. They tell us things that aren't true. They twist the truth. And so this gentleman, Charlie Mackesy, and his goal to inspire and encourage people when things feel dark and lonely is just one example of we're not alone in our struggles. And I think sometimes by the time we hit this season of our life, if you've had children, they're almost grown or they're grown, your marriage is at an interesting point because we've focused on children for so long, or our businesses or our careers for so long. And sometimes we can feel very alone in the journey that we're in. And I'm hoping that this podcast has, like I said, met you in that place to help you realize there are other people that are going through things. It doesn't minimize what you're going through, but it encourages you that you're not alone in these challenges that are life. One of the illustrations has a little boy sitting on a branch with the mole. It says, "The greatest illusion," said the mole, "is that life should be perfect." You know, it's one of those things where, back to the whole, the things we believe, there's a question out there that when you hit midlife, you should have, where are you at? Do you have this together? Do you have that together? Have you accomplished this thing? There's these questions about, basically, have you arrived? Have you got all your ducks in a row? And I think there are seasons of life that it feels that way, but I don't think life itself is that way. I think it's a constant, flexible journey that we go through. And sometimes things work the way we want them to, and sometimes they don't. And we need to be flexible, back to the brain conversation, and recognizing that it's a lot like you watch a football player, right? Those running backs, they catch the ball and they run sideways and forward and hopping and spinning. And that is life. Things are thrown our way. We try to navigate, and it's not a straight line. We try to stabilize our life, and it becomes challenging sometimes. But I think the blessing is in the journey. And as we think about, and as I think about this idea of pursuing a life that feels in alignment, pursuing a life that feels fulfilling, and focusing on my marriage and my relationships with my daughters and my friends to make sure that those are the best that they can be, that they're fulfilling, that for both of us, not just me. And all of these things that we are going through at this season of our lives. I've been thinking about some of the topics that I've covered and some of the conversations that I've had. And I noticed that there was kind of a strong leaning toward, what makes you happy? And I think that question can easily become very selfish. And so this is just my thoughts on it. As I observe that question, I think it can be a bit of a slippery slope. I don't know if happiness really is the goal as much as finding the joy in the moments and finding the grace that we need to live a life that's in alignment, and to understand that just like you and I are having this conversation and we're each going through our own things, every person we're in relationship with is also going through their own experience of life. And that makes it complicated. So if I'm only focusing on my happiness, then I'm completely blotting out the experiences of everyone around me. And so sometimes I will look back over my list of conversations and wonder if I was able to clearly put forward my perspective on the topic. Because as a woman of faith, I don't believe I'm supposed to be the center of my universe. I don't believe that my happiness is paramount. I don't believe that it's all about me. Although, as a human, I struggle with those feelings and those thoughts. So I'm constantly trying to find the balance, as we go through these things in life, as we experience things, as we feel back to feelings unhappy, or as we feel back to feelings unfulfilled, or, my needs aren't being met or whatever. I just always feel like there has to be a balance, because never will I be 100% happy. Never will 100% of my needs be met. Never will everything be the way I quote unquote want it to be. But see, I'm in relationship with you and my children and my husband and my friends, and we are all having this experience back to this universality of life. And my personal take is it's nice to be happy, but I think maybe joy is a better pursuit. Finding joy no matter what's happening, looking for those shards of light, which is a conversation I shared early in my podcast, and then I reposted it. This life is complex, and our relationships are complex because people are complex. And so when I popped in today, I didn't know where this conversation was going to go, but now that I'm in it, I'm realizing that this idea about recognizing that we can change, this whole you can't teach an old dog new tricks, is a bunch of baloney. It's if we are willing to make the changes we need to make, understanding that we all need support and encouragement. Maybe happiness shouldn't be the goal, but maybe joy, making a shift to the idea for me of joy, finding joy in the difficulties. There's a lot that comes into my podcast email box that's very me-centered. It's about, what, like I said, what makes me happy. You have to love yourself. And these conversations I've wrestled with them since I've posted the podcast, not because I'm critical of the guest, but I've questioned myself. How do I feel about this idea of self-love? And I think that for me, again, as a woman of faith, as a Christ follower, this idea of love has a different perspective. When I love my family and my friends, I try to love them in a way that's best for them. I always, as a human, desire to be loved and accepted and heard and seen, and all of that is fine. But if that's the only thing I think about, if I only think of filling my own cup, if I only think about what's good for me and how I feel, back to feelings, I'm going to get off track and my relationships are going to suffer. And I won't be the best person that I can be. This is my belief system again. I'm not preaching at you. I'm just, as I've thought about the different conversations I've had on the podcast, I think they all have value. I just feel like I need to make sure to think through what I'm listening to and understand my own mind when it comes to it. I think as women, I firmly believe that we do pour out more than we take in a lot of the time. And that's something we need to be mindful of. If you want to call that self-love, the semantics aren't as important to me as the motive behind the words, I suppose. And so I think that's what's been on my mind. It's like we have words and they have meanings, right? We put meanings to words and then that's what they mean. But maybe when I say self-love and I'm thinking of it one way, maybe you're thinking of it another way. So I'm just expressing my own feeling with self-love is I think I do need to set boundaries. I need to be healthy in my relationships. I do need to rest when I need rest. I do need to apply myself more in some situations when maybe I don't want to. It's all a matter of balance. But just thinking through the topics, overthinking, which is one of my habits as well. Maybe I'm overthinking it. But the reality is that I want this experience of sharing together in this podcast to have a real sense of encouragement and community and challenge, even to think through the things that we think we believe. So apparently this podcast conversation turned into Deep Thoughts with Gina, which that would be an accurate description of the way that I live my life. I live in the deep end of the pool, but I do hope that there's been something that I've shared with you that's been on my heart and mind that will be an encouragement to you wherever you find yourself along your journey, no matter what you believe, because my faith is integral to who I am and how I choose to live my life. And it's not a judgment on you and how you choose to live your life. I'm just finding a moment to share my heart and my position with you so that you have a better understanding of the perspective that I come from when I share things. Because I do believe that everyone is born for a purpose and designed specifically to accomplish something in the world that really only they were designed to do. And I think that that is the important piece, is to recognize that you are important. Your life is important. Your gifts, your abilities, your contribution to this world is important. So I encourage you to maybe take a moment and think about where you're at, what resources would be encouraging to you. And if there's any way that I can be of an encouragement to you, like I said earlier in the podcast, please go ahead and reach out to me at our tribe at feminineroadmap.com. And I hope that you understand my heart. It's just to share the journey that I'm on, where I'm at. I understand everyone's in their own place, going through their own things, coming from their own perspectives. And again, that is what makes life interesting and sometimes challenging, is that we are different people with different life experiences, with different perspectives and different things that we've gone through. But I want you to know that you are seen and heard, that you are valuable, important. You're created for a purpose. I'm glad that you take the time to listen to any of my podcasts. I'm grateful for the time that you give to me, because I know how valuable time is. And I hope that you find some spark of joy in your life today, that you will lift your chin and look around and find those things that are blessings. Count them. One of the practices I have with my friends when we use Marco Polo, some of my friends, when we communicate, and one of our practices is to share 3 things that we're grateful for at the end of our conversations, because gratitude is a brain and game changer. Gratitude physically changed the structure of the brain in positive ways. So in closing my conversation today, I'm going to give you 3 things that I am grateful for. I am grateful for this opportunity to serve through a podcast that I'm in my 5th year. I could have never imagined that I would go that far. and that people would continue to listen. So I'm very grateful for you. If you're hearing my voice right now, I'm very grateful for you. Number two, I'm really grateful for good resources by good, smart, and people who are smarter than me, who have resources that I need to become the best version of myself. I'm grateful for books like the Bible, which is the number one book I'm grateful for, Dr. Carolyn Leaf, her books, Brendan Burchard, his personal development books, Dr. Amen, his brain books, Back to the Brain, Charles Mackesy, his beautiful art and his encouragement. So grateful for these people who've taken their gift and put it into a book so that I can be encouraged and I can encourage other people and work through it. I've used some people's books, like John Maxwell. I've done online mastermind with his books. I'm so grateful that people have these resources that we can learn from. And the third thing that I'm grateful for is I'm just really grateful for the life that I have. You know, I have a roof over my head. I have shoes on my feet. I have water to drink, food to eat. I have a family that we have a good relationship and we love each other. And that alone has made my life so rich, you know, and then you add in my friends and the connections I've made through this podcast. I'm just really grateful for all of that goodness in my life. And I hope that you can take the time today to find 3 things that you're grateful for and find someone to share it with. Because as we share our gratitude, we share our light, we share that shard of light that I was talking about that someone might need today. One of the things I do with my family, they've gotten used to it. If somebody's having a particularly bad day, we're all kind of off. I do this whole okay, everybody has to say 5 things they're grateful for. So yes, I'm that annoying mom. I may not make you eat raw food, but I make you be grateful because sometimes I need it too. And hearing what the people I love are grateful for also elevates my gratitude and it changes my brain state and it makes the world a better place. So I hope that you're encouraged by this conversation today, my friends. And I thank you so much for being a part of my tribe. While you're at my website at www.feminineroadmap.com, if you scroll all the way to the bottom, you can join my email list. I send out periodic encouraging emails. There used to be a freebie with it, but somehow I don't know how to reattach it to that. There was a change on the website and I haven't figured it out. So you will get a welcome email that says there's a freebie, but I don't know if you can access the freebie, and that's my fault for not being techie and maybe not fault. I don't know how to fix it. So we are continually working on that, but you will get the emails periodically from me. Anyway, I also have an online course called Your Midlife-Masterpiece-Plan. There will be a link to that at the top of the page at feminineroadmap.com. I'd love to have you check that out. I have offered it at a price that is affordable, but it's the life-changing strategies that I have used in my coaching practice, as well as my own personal life, to help bring the life to us that we desire to live, puts us in the driver's seat, gives us tools and resources to create that midlife masterpiece plan. Also, my friends, if you could like, subscribe, and share this podcast, get this message out there, I would be so grateful. I'm grateful for you. Thank you for joining me. I look forward to bringing you more encouraging conversations in the weeks to come. Take care, my friends. Bye-bye.